Welcome. So, have you ever noticed how some leaders just seem to effortlessly navigate through total chaos, while others, and hey, maybe even you on a bad day, end up completely burned out, just frantically putting out fires all day? Well, today, we're going to fix that. In this explainer, we're completely reframing how you think about strategy. We're moving away from that outdated idea of a dusty, static business plan and transforming it into this dynamic, living prism of diverse perspectives. If you want to step out of the daily grind and seriously elevate your leadership, you're in the exact right place. Okay, let's dive into this core thesis. Strategic thinking is diversity and perspective mix. I know, that statement sounds deceptively simple, right? But it's actually the secret code to sustainable success. See, strategic thinking isn't just about raw intelligence. It's not about how many years of experience you have, and it's certainly not just about hoarding the most data. The real magic? It's your ability to consciously mix completely different viewpoints into one single coherent direction. It's a very active blending process. To get you to that level of mastery, here's our quick roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll explore the prism of strategy. 2, we'll define the lighthouse leader. 3, we'll look at the oxygen of execution. 4, we'll take a rapid-fire tour through the 360-degree framework lenses. And finally, part 5, we'll wrap up with exactly how to master this strategic mindset in your day-to-day. All right, let's kick things off with part 1, the prism of strategy, seeing the whole truth. Think of strategy kind of like a prism. When a single beam of light, let's call that your business problem, when it hits a prism, it splits into all these multiple beautiful colors, right? Those colors are your different perspectives. True strategic thinking is the capacity to see all of those colors, the whole picture, before you act on a single part. It means you're future-oriented. You think in interconnected systems, and you're deeply aware of consequences. The trap most leaders fall into is single-lens obsession. They look at a problem only through the lens of finance, or maybe only through marketing. But here's the thing. One perspective just creates bias. Multiple perspectives create wisdom. And it's only when you integrate those perspectives that you actually create a strategy. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we mean by perspective diversity, broken down into 5 key components. True strategic thinkers dynamically shift through time, meaning they analyze the past, anchor themselves in the present, but anticipate the future. They move across levels, from the individual employee all the way up to broad societal impact. They cross domains, mixing things like psychology with economics and technology. They view problems from multiple angles, stepping into the shoes of the customer, the competitor, and their own internal team. And finally, they blend mindsets, combining deep, rigorous analytical logic with wild creative intuition. Basically, if you're missing one of these components, your strategy absolutely has a blind spot. Which naturally brings us to part 2, the lighthouse leader, navigating chaos. In our volatile, fast-paced, nonlinear world, linear leadership simply collapses. It just doesn't work. Think about leaders without a strategy. They're frantic, they're basically firefighters, constantly confusing what's urgent with what's actually important, and they always mistake physical motion for real progress. They're just exhausted. Now contrast that with the lighthouse leader. A lighthouse doesn't jump into the ocean to furiously chase ships around, does it? No, it stands still, it sees far, it warns early, and it guides safely. These leaders are calm. They literally turn chaos into clarity. They'll look at a massive threat and convert it into a platform for growth. They aren't just trying to survive the storm, they're actively designing a competitive advantage right out of it. Let's move right into section 3, the oxygen of execution, making action count. Here is the harsh reality of business. Execution without strategy is just exhausting. But strategy without execution, well, that's just a hallucination. Strategy is the oxygen that breathes life into your efforts. It aligns the daily grind with your ultimate purpose. Let's break down the math on this. Action multiplied by direction multiplied by timing equals your strategic outcome. If you lack diverse perspectives, your action is completely blind, your direction is narrow, and your timing is purely accidental. You're basically just hoping to get lucky. But when you apply that prism of perspectives we talked about, everything changes. Your action becomes highly precise, your direction expands, and your timing, it becomes decisive and deliberate. Let's move to and see how this builds into part 4, the 360-degree framework lenses, the 11 strategic tools. Now, I want you to think of these not as boring textbook theories, but as interchangeable lenses that you literally pop into your lighthouse to see the environment in a totally illuminating new way. We're going to move fast here. First up is the classic SWOT analysis. But actually, scratch how you usually use it. This is not some corporate checklist. It's a strategic mirror. We all know strengths are what you amplify and opportunities are where you play. But the real secret? It's in the weaknesses. You see, strategic thinkers do not run around blindly trying to fix all their weaknesses. No way. Instead, they design brilliant strategies that make those weaknesses completely irrelevant to the game being played. Next, we have red versus blue oceans. Most businesses are stuck swimming in the red ocean. The exact same thinking, the same products, just a bloody fight with the sharks for market share. But with diverse perspectives, you start to see the blue ocean. This is where you practice value innovation. You eliminate what doesn't matter, and you create what has never existed before. As the metaphor goes, stop fighting sharks and start creating dolphins. Our third lens is design thinking, which is absolutely crucial for ensuring your strategy remains deeply human. Because frankly, strategy without empathy just becomes arrogance. You have to empathize first, then define, ideate, prototype, and test. This lens guarantees that your brilliant ideas aren't just planned in some isolated boardroom, but are actually lived and embraced by real humans in the real world. Let's group these next 3 essential tools together real quick. First, your foundation, the 5W1H method, asking why, what, who, when, where, and how. This incredibly simple tool is powerful at preventing premature solution bias. Next up is your economic reality check, PPF analysis. It forces you to ask the hard question: what must we stop doing to start something better? It actively prevents you from overcommitting. And finally, your communication tool, the IDA concept: attention, interest, desire, action. This lens guarantees your strategy actually cuts through the noise, so people actually care about your plan. Next up is the product lifecycle. Look, timing is literally everything. From introduction to growth, then maturity, and finally decline, strategic thinkers know exactly where they are on this timeline. They invest early, they scale intelligently, they harvest wisely during maturity, and they exit consciously before the decline drags them down. Keep this in mind. Most business failures aren't actually the result of bad ideas, they're just the result of terribly wrong timing. So, to guarantee your timing is right, you need the OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, and act. This is your ultimate lens for speed and adaptability. By using a diverse mix of perspectives, a strategic thinker observes a much wider field of data. That means they can orient themselves smarter, decide faster, and act way cleaner than the competition. Honestly, the orient phase is where your perspective diversity truly shines as a massive unfair advantage. And to wrap up our lenses, we have the system alignment engines. A strategy map transforms your abstract vision into cold, hard operational logic. The McKinsey 7S model ensures that your structure, your systems, and your shared values are totally harmonized, so you avoid the illusion of alignment. And finally, Kaizen. Kaizen converts your strategy from a one-time, big-deal boardroom event into a daily, continuous habit of tiny improvements. Now, as we close out this toolkit, it's time to ask how we actually live this day to day. That was a massive 360-degree view. So let's move to our final section, mastering the strategic mindset. It's time to hardwire everything we've talked about into your daily execution. Now, what's really interesting about this concept is the profound shift in mindset it requires. Think about hitting a wall in a project. A wall, for a standard thinker, is a dead end. It means stop, it's over. But for a strategist, a wall is just a climbing surface. A strategic thinker views challenges simply as data in disguise. They see roadblocks as signals of transition, and they treat them as clear, open invitations to completely redesign the game. To keep your strategic lighthouse shining brightly, you have to build these daily habits. You must habitually ask second-order questions. So not just what happens, but what happens after that happens. You need to actively challenge your own assumptions every single week. You must force yourself to think in interconnected systems rather than isolated silos. Above all, you've got to value your own curiosity way over the comfort of certainty. And always, always focus your energy on long-term leverage rather than short-term effort. Which brings us to the ultimate equation for mastery here. Clarity multiplied by perspective, multiplied by courage, multiplied by consistency equals strategic mastery. You need the clarity to see the goal, the diverse perspectives to actually understand the reality, the courage to act differently than the crowd, and the consistency to do it every single day. When you combine these 4 elements, your execution becomes truly elegant and your success becomes inevitable. So the crucial point is summarized perfectly by this truth right here. Strategic thinking is not about predicting the future, it's about preparing the mind to win in any future. Having a huge diversity of perspectives might sound like a recipe for confusion at first, but it is actually your absolute ultimate competitive advantage. It ensures that no matter what the market throws at you, your mind is flexible enough and prepared enough to find the winning angle. I want to leave you with this single, powerful question today. Look at your own leadership, look at your current projects, and ask yourself honestly, are you just reacting to reality, or are you actively redefining it? It is time to step out of the chaos, stop chasing those ships in the water, and become the visionary lighthouse leader you were meant to be. Thanks so much for exploring this explainer with me today, and keep shining that light.